Working with Canvas. So, first of all, we need to clarify what are custom views. So, custom view is something that you create on your own by extending a view class. It usually means that you want to create your custom element where you'll be using your own drawn graphics instead of relying on pre-created Android views like text view or button. So usually you should go for custom views when there are no standard Android alternatives available. It means like there is no element like text view or frame layout that suits your needs, and you cannot find a library already available somewhere on the internet, freely available. So the general rule that you should avoid developing them because it's just complex and it's a pain to maintain them. So usually you can work around that by combining multiple different existing views on Android. However, if you do really need to create one, it involves creating your custom class that extends view, and you need to override and implement a few methods. So some of them are not mandatory, like on layout. You can skip that, or on measure, but on draw is required, and that's the method where you'll be doing your graphical drawing of your element. Also, if you intend for your element to be resized, you'll need to implement on-size change method where you'll notify your element that it needs to be redrawn or some parameters need to be recalculated. Inside onDraw method, you'll have access to Canvas, which is, just Canvas, where you'll be doing your drawing. There are multiple methods available to do the drawing, and some of them are really simple and straightforward, like draw lines or draw rect, which means draw a rectangle. Others are more sophisticated, like draw arc, draw text, bitmap. So there are many more methods, but these are the main ones that you can use to create your own drawing on the canvas. And finally, Canvas provides an interface to apply transformations on your existing drawing. So for example, you can supply a rotation matrix to your canvas that will make the canvas rotate according to the parameters supplied. So this set matrix interface is really powerful, and it's intended for more advanced uses. Finally, the created element will need to be configurable, and it will need to be configured. So in our case, we will create a progress radial element, which will be an element that will display progress in a radial manner. So we'll supply a progress parameter that will represent a value from 0 to 1 and progress color. So we have them here specified. So let's take a look at the code. So here we have the progress radial element, the class itself. And we can see that first of all, when the element is initialized, you need to parse attributes that are supplied. So the method here is very simple. You retrieve the attributes by their ID, and ID is defined in this XML file. So just to quickly cover, this is the configuration that we talked before, and it just includes the names of the attributes inside the specified element that we are creating. Progress radial. So back to the class itself. So here we retrieve the values for the attributes by specifying their IDs. So it's just a progress float and progress color. We set progress, and we need to specify that this typed array can now be recycled, so it can free up memory. So the next thing is to set up paints, which will initialize a few variables that we are using to draw on canvas. So it will set things like circle paint, which will be the background for our radial progress, and it's going to be white. We enable anti-alias flag that will make the drawing smoother. And also we do the same with the arc paint, except that we now set the progress color that has been supplied from as a parameter. So we can skip on layout and on measure methods because it's just a very simple custom view that we're creating, but usually you would need to implement on measure when you have certain requirements of width and space inside your element. And using on measure, you can specify that it has to be at least 20 pixels of height or something like that. On layout, you would use to react to the changes of the parent layout that our element is contained. So if the size of our parent layout changes or the position, you might want to do something about that. And finally, we have onSizeChanged method that we use to recalculate parameters of our element being drawn. So one of the things it does, it calls setAbounds. And setAbounds is something we have created to specify the height of the drawing and how big the circle should be. So when we have all of these, basically all of these methods involve the configuration of our custom view. So we can finally get to the onDraw method. So it's very simple. Here we're just gonna draw an oval. So it's gonna be a circle of size that's specified in this rectangle object and using our paint that we created before. And then afterwards we're gonna draw an arc that will display the progress of our element that we're gonna use later. So, and that's it for the progress radial class. So next, would be good to take a look how it's used. So we're gonna use it in portfolio item layout, where it's gonna be used as a progress or like a pie chart to identify what part of portfolio is each one of the items in our portfolio list. So we're gonna take a look at that very quickly. So since we didn't specify on measure method, we need to specify layout width and height specifically in a size that we expect the element to be. So here we have chosen it to be 32 dips. So it's gonna be just like an icon. And then you can see that we have passed parameters. The progress is 44. Just as an example, 44%, and then progress color is red. And we initialize the element in this XML by calling its class name with full canonical name. So how does that look in the application itself? So here we can see that we have a few entries in our list, and there's Google, Microsoft, and they represent a different value of our portfolio. And we can see that this now progress represents the portion for this one item from entire portfolio. That was basically it for the custom views. And in the next video, we're gonna take a look at the payments.